Hey guys, Mathel here once again, and today I did want to talk a bunch about Starcaller Axe. Starcaller, I think it's called, yep. But real quick, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the end game of the Spectral Shield Throw of Trathus. So if you're only interested in Starcaller, skip ahead a couple minutes, I'll put a timestamp. But yeah, just wanted to do a bit more about this one because I did take this character further. I did end up doing a bunch of endgame content, killed a couple of Ubers, did a bunch of tier 17s, and all in all, yeah, I was very pleased with the new SST and also with Elementalist. And took the character like level 95 and just blasted a whole bunch of maps. It felt really good to play. It felt really good to have an Impulsor, all the Heralds, the Golems. Overall, just a very pleasant character. And the shield throw itself is pretty cool. There's a couple of like drawbacks on it, unfortunately. As you can see, the DPS on a single target can be pretty good, but it's contingent heavily on being melee. So, as I've mentioned, the Sniper's Mark is what splits out extra shields, and you have to be very up close to the enemy to have those extra shields split out around the enemy, and thus basically creating a shotgun around the enemy. If you're just a little bit further away, the shields are going to be flung further away and then not do anywhere near as much single target, and that does become a problem on like proper end game single target because there's lots of bosses that you have to move around on, and at that point you're dealing like nowhere near your actual maximum amount of damage, and it does get a bit weird. This is a feared here that, you know, I actually ended up dying a couple times too. I don't think I was playing my best that day, but you could also see that Chayula took out almost all of my golems. For the most part, golems do survive pretty well on Elementalist, at least in a setup similar to what I'm running. But there's still stuff out there that can kill you. Can kill the golems, and then you have to be pretty on point as to what you're doing when that's happening, because that means you've lost almost all of your buffs and almost all of your character power. In the end, this is still a very, very humble setup for what the new golems can do with the new hat, because I ended up just running a couple of primordial bonds that weren't anything special whatsoever when you can do megalomaniacs with some pretty crazy shit. So I think the ceiling on the Elementalist is really high at the moment, and it's just going to be kind of up to what you can get your hands on and how much you'll have to pay for it. But even the baseline Elementalist power with a template similar to this one, pretty much one for like almost any skill, should deliver some pretty decent results. Golems in general are very strong, and so is the hat. So yeah, I did take on a couple tier 17s and stuff, and just a bit of a rant. I cannot believe this fight somehow actually got worse. The tier 17 Katarina fight was already one of the worst things I'd ever seen in Path of Exile, and it got worse because the new Katarina got somewhat changed, and then those changes got brought into this current version as well. There's like more green, it's like harder to see shit, there's like ground degen now, thanks to a certain attack. Overall, it's fucking worse, and it was infuriating doing these. I took on, I think, 4 tier 17s in the end, and squeaked past on most of them. On the very first one, on like, I don't know, level 90, when I first tried one, I did brick the Katarina, and it was pretty annoying. But yeah, look, eventually we got there and did end up killing those a bunch of times. Still very annoying, and yeah, shit boss fight and shit tier 17 action. Either way, very good character, and now we moved on to Starcaller Axe. This one is a bit of a puzzle to unlock because on the surface it does not look very good, and it seems like it's pretty hard to scale and scale well enough at the same time as doing other things, and its power just seemed pretty limited. Very similar to what the Namahu Axe was like up till this point. And you pretty much have to treat it in a very similar way. So Starcaller Axe is an axe that procs out these meteorite things, a starfall attack, and it is an attack, it's not a spell. So you know, these dual cast on crit sort of setups don't really make sense. It's just basically try and build a big attack character, but you have to overcome the low base damage of the axe itself, and then also build a certain way for damage scaling to actually exist. Be that, you know, full chaos, full fizz, full fucking Ellie, all this sort of stuff. My idea in the end was to basically take abyssal stuff, so lots of abyssal flat damage to take the abyssal uniques, and then just enhance the shit out of that with some level of either assassin or berserker scaling. Berserker ended up winning out over the end just because it made a bit more sense to be on that side of the passive tree, and a lot of people are playing Cyclone with it, which is the obvious choice, so I wanted to go a bit different with that one as well, and I started to go towards Static Strike. All of Static Strike beams count as melee, and the axe procs off of melee attacks. So your best bet is Cyclone, it is Static Strike, it is Ragevortex, and then yeah, just go to town and try and start scaling. So if you're thinking like Lancing Steel, that's not going to work, and the end result of Starfall itself is that it's a projectile as well, so that's why you kind of want to scale two things at once. If you scale all melee, it's going to be bad for that. If you scale all projectiles, your melee is going to be bad. So you got to be kind of careful about how you're scaling things. Either way, first Zerker I've made in a while, and yeah, it's pretty damn strong. Like, stacking Rage, you get lots of more damage. Zerker itself, you get lots of more damage. And the 30% of Leech is instant is a really strong node. I only just picked it up in the last, like, I don't know, 30 minutes of whatever stream I was just doing, and it let me kind of face tank through a lot of dumb situations. So I'm definitely going to be looking at that one in the future too, because it can be pretty cheese. So what you're seeing here with all the green stuff is just Light Poacher popping off a lot. You can do some tech to make Light Poacher Spirit Charges not really dissipate ever. I wasn't really trying to build around Light Poacher at all. I just stacking Abyssal Jewels and then using Shroud of the Lightless for all of its buffs that it gives for those Abyssal Jewels, but you can do Light Poacher as well for all that extra fizz as elemental damage. I ended up just trying to do lots of extra flat elemental damage because I had done a Abyssal setup once before based kind of off like a Namahu style thing where you get fizz as extra stuff, and my conclusion was that just flat elemental Abyss was going to be better. So that's why I went with that this time around. And it does seem to be working out pretty well. I've got a lot of damage coming from the Starfall itself. I'm still kind of in a early phase of scaling all of this shit. My Static Strike is only on a 2-link, and same with my Ragevortex. So I'm running around static striking. That's proccing lots of Starfalls, and then when I need bigger, more reliable procs, we throw out a Ragevortex, and that means that we can also be kind of ranged. So this can in the end be a bit more of a range setup where you just throw out some Ragevortexes and then sit back and wait for the damage to come in, or we can be a bit more up and personal, doing a bit of everything at the same time. In the end, it's doing a lot better than I thought it would. I was expecting it to kind of taper off quite a bit more and not do very good high map tier sort of damage, but so far so good. It's still in its early days, and you can start to get some ideas off of this if you want, but I'm still fine-tuning it and hoping to see it go a little bit further. Not sure entirely what Merc I'm going to use still. I'm debating about that one, and just picked up a Wanding Becky for now, just to get a bit of extra haste in my build, but a thicker Merc might end up helping out quite a bit more. Overall, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but they do definitely help out your tankiness and your extra damage if you put the right things onto your Mercs. So it's been good, it's been pretty fun. I'm still going with this, but Starcaller a little bit better than the meme a lot of people are giving it a label of, and I think there's a bit of potential to take this one all the way to endgame. But in general, yeah, Berserkers are just really good. There's a good reason that that's played so profusely at the moment. So yeah, so far so good. Let me just go ahead and show you what my character looks like so far before it goes into a slight more deeper endgame action. So here's the current character, level 88, still better than Starfield. So apparently the axe is going to be shit, but even though it's shit, still better than Starfield. I don't have a say in that, that's just Twitch chat memes. So Starcaller is the thing we're trying to build around. Level 20 Starfall on melee critical strike. It's got an okay amount of fizz, not really anything crazy, barely any crit, pretty slow weapon, and then 53% of weapon fizz as extra damage of a random element, which isn't really anything too insane, considering how many scalings you can get out there with other things. And that's what it looks like to begin with. The PoE will tell you that it is a projectile, it is an attack. Starts out with basically just your base fizz because it's just going to scale off of whatever additional you have. So it starts out with just some extra fizz there, and then you do whatever you want after that. I have converted a lot of my fizz and then also gained a lot of flat elemental damage. It fires about 22 projectiles at this point, and some of them overlap, a lot of them won't. So on larger targets, it's of course going to do much better damage, but the idea is that you typically don't want to get too much area on these types of characters, because if you get even a little bit of area, it's just going to like spread out everywhere and barely hit the target you actually want to hit. So then it'll be mostly AoE. It is a bit of a weird one. It's not always going to connect well. On some, it'll do pretty good. But overall, it's a little bit of fun and it is kind of cool. It's got a 0.15 cooldown. If you want to bring that down to, further reduce the cooldown, you can. But I don't really see it as too necessary at this point. I'm not sure I even proc it more with the current attacks I've got. So that's what we're dealing with there, and that's what I tried to build around with pretty generic, just flat elemental damage, because I think that's what it needs. It's either a shitload of extra fizz or just elemental damage in the form of abyssal jewels, or the other thing you could do is basically awaken gems or just like scale some auras really powerfully. But this is what I've chosen to do, because looking up these like sort of abyssal jewels, lots of flat Ellie with axes and some life and stuff like that. Each of these are anywhere from like 60C to 1 divine. So in total, this character is worth about probably 10 to 15 divines. And it's mostly just from like buying individual little jewels. I bought the axe itself for 100C and then divined it a few times just to get it up and running to a slightly better roll. Otherwise, the classic sort of abyssal stuff that just is pretty strong, and I've used multiple times at this point. I'm a big fan of the abyssal scaling because of the chest mostly. It solves all the penetration. It gives you some extra life. If it wasn't for this, I wanted to do an Omni stack because I haven't done one of those in a while, and I think it should have been pretty powerful as well. Probably contingent on like auras and awaken gem or two. But that's what we're dealing with. And then light poacher as well. If you can make sure that spirit charges aren't being used, then you can get a lot of extra fizz as all elements, but it can be a bit jank, and I've done that in the past. I don't know if I'll end up leaning more into it this time around. Like the green spirit burst does pretty much nothing, it's just whatever. Otherwise, it's just extra couple of sockets. You can use a Wraith Lord hat, which has 4 abyssal sockets, but at that point we'd be really stressed on gem sockets, so I decided to still stick with a light poacher for now. So you don't need to link any of this up, and because you don't have to link this up, there is a new rune graft that we can take advantage of. So we've got this one over here, 10 damage for each unlinked socket in equipped two-hand weapon, so pretty much free 60% damage. Also using the rune graft for a skills to not consume a cooldown on use for a bit better procs. And I'm also using a Secrets of Suffering to turn all our cold and fire into brittle and scorch, because that helps solve our crit issue, also helps solve some of the penetration. So we've currently got here Ellie Focus, Conk Effect, Vicious Proj, Slower Proj, Ellie Damage Attacks, and Volatility. I still need to fit crit damage in instead of probably Slower Proj. Maybe I'll get rid of Ellie Focus for something else as well. But for now, that's the current setup. Over here, I'm using Static Strike, and I've got attached Crit Strikes, just for better proc reliability, and then Ragevortex, and then we've got Inspiration attached. Just a clean 4-link for both my skills. Here we've got Leap Slam and Faster Attacks. I put a Herald of Ash over here. A Hatred, that's basically all my mana reserve. I still need to put on Tincture, and that will be pretty comfortable to use given how much mana I've got on standby. We then got a Frostblank, a Blood and Sand, and a Berserk. Berserker itself does give lots of good rage and lots of good rage generation with basically all the Berserk stuff, all the stuff on the tree. I've got, I think, close to 10 rage per attack, so it's easy to get it up and running. It's easy to maintain Ragevortex, and it's pretty easy to get a bit of value out of Berserk as well. So all in all, good stuff there. That's currently what the tree is looking like. I've converted to Iron Reflexes. I'm doing this stuff over here. I'm getting my conversion from Cold Mastery and Fire Mastery. We can still do a Hatred Watcher's Eye if I want to fully convert. So far, I'm not too sure if I want to do that. I've got a spare socket there, got a spare socket there. I'm using a Cluster Jewel to solve a bit of extra leech, and also my mana leech, because we do need to solve that somehow. And aside from that, I picked up this ring. It's got some Chaos Res on it, so it's Solar Self Found thing. Picked up an amulet for 1 divine that solves most of my int and a lot of my decks. And then we crafted this thing on stream yesterday, which is just grab a fracture, do a bunch of chaos rerolls until we got 2 good modifiers. I then locked the chaos and the Ellie res. That's all I had. With suffix cannot be changed, I did a veiled chaos, which landed that fire and chaos roll. So then we had 3 really good suffixes. Did another suffix cannot be changed, and then actually wait, no, I didn't even do that. I just ended up slamming 1 extra prefix, and it was life. But if it didn't work out that way, I would have done suffix cannot be changed, reroll life, and then we got a pretty good ring. So I still, I don't know, maybe need to change this one to fit another thing in, but we'll see. So far, that's what we got. Just try and get lots of flat elemental damage. If you want to copy the same sort of thing, you can go an Omni setup instead. Like I said, we do have a Techrod's Graze that gives us a lot. Techrod's Gaze that gives us a lot of crit just for our main hand. The offhand thing does not work. Yeah, still going to put a tincture into this build, so I think there's still a lot of power to be gained, and so far so good. I think the damage is looking good, the playstyle's nice, and I look forward to seeing where it goes. This MTX setup is just demonic body armor with wild helmet and some eyes, and then I think this is a supporter pack thing. But all in all, it's a bit of a meme weapon. I wish it had a bit more power to begin with, but you can get it to a point where it'll do damage, and hopefully we get it to a point where it actually does real damage for the end game. So we'll find out, but so far so good. So there it is. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.